Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Thursday's edition of the DC Daily. Please stay tuned for the second part of the show where I'll be giving you all your DC live action updates. I'll be giving you an update on the Smallville podcast that launches, I think, next Wednesday, and which will be led with Smallville icons Michael Rosenbaum, aka Lex Luthor, and Tom Welling, our very own Smallville version of Superman. We'll be discussing it. A little bit later on after that as well, we'll be discussing the Black Adam prequel comic that reveals a very iconic DC villain. So very exciting things. But first of all, I want to take this deep dive today about Ben Affleck's Batfleck movie, because this was going to be amazing. No one knows more about this movie apart from Ben Affleck and Warner Brothers themselves. Today we discuss what this movie was going to be, what was Ben Affleck's and Zack Snyder's plan for Batman, and what happened to this movie. Why didn't this movie ever happen? So this movie was going to have an epic, awesome antagonist. This movie was going to have Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke. Do you remember that brilliant, amateur video that Ben Affleck set up with Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke? It was amazing. It looked amazing. Those were very, very exciting times. But like everything Snyderverse, it was destroyed, it was thrown in the garbage, and it deserved a lot better than that. I believe that Ben Affleck would have won Best Oscar, Best Writer-Director for this movie, and maybe even Best Actor. I believe this movie was going to eclipse The Dark Knight. To most people, the best live-action Batman movie ever made. I've read the script, I've read the concept. This was going to be a sensational movie. So Joe Manganiello was going to be the principal villain. But what drives Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke in this Batman movie is revenge. One of the things that excited me about this movie, this wasn't just going to be Deathstroke and Batman fighting, and ultimately they would have to have a proper physical brawl probably in the third act of the movie, but this was a thinking man's Batman movie. This was going to be a revenge movie, a psychological thriller, because we see at the end of Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut, when it's revealed that Deathstroke breaks out Lex Luthor out of Arkham Asylum, Lex now owes Deathstroke one. So he reveals that Batman is in fact Bruce Wayne. This is a very dangerous revelation, and in the film and in the script and concept that I have read, this was going to be a brutal piece of information. Yes, I can confirm that Alfred was going to get murdered in this movie, and he was going to drive Ben Affleck's Batman insane, even putting him in Arkham Asylum with most of the rogues gallery Batman had already put in there. So we were going to get some awesome Arkham stuff as well. But this movie was a revenge thriller, a psychological thriller. It was going to be a very long movie. This would have been, I think, the best Batman movie ever made. Ben Affleck was going to write, direct, and star in this film. So what happened to this film? Why didn't we get it? I think you'll remember a tweet from Jeff Johns saying this. A lot of people say that DC has darker characters, but I don't agree. DC is a place of inspirational characters. This was during the controversy around the Snyderverse and the complaints that Snyder's vision was too dark. Jeff Johns already trying to put what Snyder was doing to one side. It quickly became apparent that Jeff Johns apparently and Ben Affleck were working on the script of this movie together. This is a lie. Ben Affleck wrote this movie on his own, but Warner Brothers decided they didn't want Ben to write and direct and shape this film. They just wanted him to star in it. So one of the things they decided, and Jeff Johns was in charge at the time, that Jeff Johns would write this film, rewrite this film on his own. So exactly what they did to David Ayer's Suicide Squad, exactly what they did to Zack Snyder's Justice League, and exactly what they wanted to do with the Flash movie, again, they were interfering in a vision, trying to destroy what Snyder and Affleck were building. So, Ben Affleck and Jeff Johns were never writing that movie together. So Jeff Johns decided to reach out to Matt Reeves, knowing he was a huge Batman fan. His plan was to rewrite the movie and get Matt Reeves to direct that movie, to direct Ben Affleck in the Batman movie. Now, Matt Reeves has told us very, very clearly what he was offered. He said the movie seemed like a very amazing, action-packed kind of Bond type of movie. But what script is he talking about? Ben Affleck's script or Jeff Johns' script? Anyway, Matt Reeves, being the gentleman that he is, understanding artistic etiquette, said, no, I'm not directing Ben's movie. This is Ben's movie. I can't do this. He walked away. Do you remember the news at the time that, talks broke down and Matt walked away? Because Matt wanted to do his own thing. Now, Jeff Johns went after him and said, listen, if you want to do your own thing, you can do your own thing. And that's what happened. Ben Affleck's masterpiece was hijacked and given to Matt Reeves. I like the Batman. It is a really good Batman movie. I don't think it's one of the best ever Batman movies, by the way. And I'll categorically say this today. I believe Ben Affleck's The Batman movie would have been amazing. It connects to the whole fucking Snyderverse as well. So it would have been awesome. And they took it away from him because they listened to the pundits and some of the DC fans who didn't know what they were talking about. They were frightened about this, this brutal, compelling, dark movie that Ben Affleck was making. Ben Affleck understands Batman. He's got a fucking Batcave in his home. He reads the comics. He loves Batman. He got Batman right. Him and Snyder got Batman right. Let me repeat myself for the play eaters at the back. Ben Affleck's version of Batman was brilliant and on point with what the character is in The Dark Knight Returns. Batman kills. So fucking what? By the end of the movie, he learns because of Superman not to be that Batman anymore and to be the Batman we know and love. So I still don't understand what you people are trying to say, but it doesn't matter. So this masterpiece was taken away from Ben Affleck, a psychological thriller that would have been amazing. And I believe Joe Manganiello was the right pick as Deathstroke. We haven't seen a movie that catalogues Deathstroke as the main villain. It would have been amazing. If you thought Deathstroke in Arrow was amazing, imagine actually giving him a fucking budget and being directed and written by Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck has already won an Oscar for his directing talents. This is why he was cast as Batman in the first place. He is the most perfect, older, grizzled Batman. For me, he's very close to being my favourite Batman. And I would say he's equally my favourite Batman alongside Christian Bale. Whoever you love, I am not invalidating those Batmen. I'm telling you who I like and admire as Batman. So this whole thing was taken away from Ben. Now, one of his friends famously, aka Matt Damon, said, after what's happened on Justice League, if you do this, this will drive you back to the bottom. And what did he mean by that? I don't think he meant the actual work. He meant the people involved in the project. People like Jeff Johns and Toby Emmerich. Toxic people. Now, I respect Jeff Johns as a legendary, iconic comic book writer. He wrote 3 amazing episodes of Smallville. His talent is unquestionable, but the way he dealt with Snyder and his universe was totally wrong. They thought the MCU was needed in a DC extended universe, and they were wrong. One of the reasons I prefer DC to Marvel, Marvel's only thing that they tell you before you start reading their comics is, well, most of our characters are human, ordinary human beings. That makes them superior to people like Superman. They are wrong. DC has got inspirational characters. Johns was right. But one of the things, because that's what Jeff Johns said on Twitter, if I remind you again, that he made a tweet. He doesn't tweet anymore for obvious reasons, but he said people are saying that DC have these, brutal, compelling characters, darker characters, and he said I don't agree with that. Our characters are inspirational. Some of the DC characters are bright, colourful, light, and inspirational. Some of them are dark and brooding and compelling. DC Comics and their graphic novels have a great variety. And Ben Affleck was doing something extremely special with Batman, something that other authors had already done within the graphic novels and comic books themselves. As I say, it was going to be an amazing movie. But Ben Affleck no more left the project totally because of his drinking problems than Zack Snyder left the Justice League project, his Snyderverse project, because of the death of his daughter. Yes, of course, it's understandable if Zack did leave because of the death of Autumn. It would have been understandable if Ben walked away because of his alcoholic problems. But they weren't the reasons. These were creative differences because Jeff Johns just didn't get what Snyder was doing. And because of the divisive nature of BVS, the studio got very scared. This wasn't just Jeff Johns. There were puppeteers behind him as well. Now, the next question we have to ask here is, will we actually ever see this movie? Does Ben Affleck want to do this movie? Now, this is interesting because he said in the past, I don't want to get involved with blockbusters. I want to do indie, independent streaming movies. And everyone took that as to say he doesn't want to do Batman. But I would like Ben to talk to the group of people, the movement of people who are fighting to get the Batfleck movie made at this day. My opinion is, if Ben wants it, we should fight for it. If Ben doesn't want it, we don't fight for it. We should always, respect what Ben wants. But has Ben Affleck had talks with David Zaslav about doing this? The continuation of the Snyderverse is an interesting thing, and time is moving on all the time. Zack's getting older, Ben's getting older, Henry's getting older, the cast and everyone's getting older. We can't wait for this forever. What's the best thing for the DCEU to carry on with the hobbling disaster show that is the Hamadaverse, or bring back Zack? And what do? Do we allow Zack to finish off what he's doing, or to give us a continuing structure of his Snyderverse? Surely these conversations are happening behind the scenes at in the halls of power of WB right now, and David Zaslav must be conducting these conversations. Does Zaslav want to restore the Snyderverse? Would Zaslav want the Batfleck movie made? I believe the Batfleck movie could and would have made over $1 billion, maybe more. I think it would have made more money than The Dark Knight. This was a very special movie because even in Batman vs. Superman, Ben Affleck had as much to do with what that movie was as Zack Snyder did. It was both of their vision. He's a great fucking Batman. He has a great fucking Batmobile. He has a great costume. He's a great fucking Bruce Wayne. And we and Ben were robbed of something special. So if Ben wants to do it, and they're having discussions with David Zaslav right now, if that's happening, let's go for it. Nothing would make me more happier to see this movie being made, because we were all robbed of this movie, just like we were nearly robbed of Zack Snyder's Justice League, like we were robbed of David Ayer's Suicide Squad, and it goes on and on. Decisions have to be made, and made quickly. But I say yes, make the damn Batfleck movie, because there's something special in that script. This film was going to be amazing. And I think whatever kind of side of the Batman fandom you are on, I think after you saw this movie, you would have been obsessed with Ben Affleck's Batman. I think this was going to be a very, very special film. Smallville Rewatch Podcast with show stars. Smallville Rewatch Podcast with show stars Tom Welling, Michael Rosenbaum gets premiere date. Podcast News Roundup by Todd Spangler of Variety. More than a decade after Smallville ended its run on TV, series stars Tom Welling, who portrayed Clark Kent Superman on the show, and Michael Rosenbaum, Lex Luthor, are hosting a new podcast revisiting every episode of the fan favourite hit, Talkville, from Cumulus Media. Is set to premiere July the 13th, with new episodes dropping each subsequent Wednesday, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, and other platforms. In the podcast series, Welling and Rosenbaum will re-watch each episode of the TV series show by show, sharing behind-the-scenes information and anecdotes. Smallville aired from 2001 to 2010, initially on the WB before moving to the CW network. All 10 seasons are currently streaming on Hulu, but not Amazon and not Netflix. So if you're not in America, as usual, the abroad fans, the international fans, get shafted, right? Welling said in a statement, "I'm glad we're finally able to do this. Looking forward to rewatching the series, sharing stories, revealing insights from my time on Smallville." Rosenbaum added, "Smallville was one of the most successful series on television. It's the most successful thing I've ever been a part of. Rewatching these old episodes with Tom is like going back in time, and it's a happy place." Wow. So that's brilliant. That is very, very exciting. Now, I sniff something here. Smallville created its own extended DC universe. In an era today of cinematic universes and franchises, Smallville did it on a shoestring budget, earning the right to become a comic book show by telling standalone stories in the first few series. It even gave us an awesome version of Smallville's very own Justice League. Who can't remember Absolute Justice or the season 6 episodes Justice? I mean, the heroes weren't wearing their iconic costumes, but this was the beginning of the story. It was amazing. Chloe Sullivan was Watchtower. You know, they were calling Clark, Boy Scout. Green Arrow was there. Impulse was there. A version of The Flash. Aquaman was there as well. Fucking amazing. What our Miles and the cast and crew of this show achieved was something special. I say to this day, it's probably the best DC live action franchise ever made. And again, it was on a shoestring budget. I believe something is happening here. I believe these podcasts are happening for a reason here. Now, we know that Tom, Michael, Alfred Goff, and Miles Miller are developing a Smallville animated series. There's rumours about what that will be, but we don't know. So that's definitely happening. But I believe we could be getting more. I came up with a Smallville spin-off concept a few years ago, two actually. One was a reboot called Smallville Metropolis, where Clark would be in Smallville, but there would be flash forwards in the show to his era as Superman in Metropolis, with something called the Doomsday Apocalypse. Basically, it would be like zombies, but it'd be Doomsday. Everyone becomes Doomsday, and the Justice League have to fight this apocalypse. And this would be a flash forward thing. Now, there was another thing I came up with as well, which was Smallville Legends. This would mean we could focus an episode on different Smallville legends. Clark, Lex, Green Arrow, whatever. You know, it could be done in any way. So I believe they're my ideas, obviously, that are never going to be done, unfortunately. But I believe our Miles and Michael and Tom are developing live action projects as well. And this podcast is just the beginning. Smallville is one of the best television series I've ever seen. It reinvigorated that flame in my heart for Superman again. It educated me about DC. I was always a Superman fan, but I do believe that Smallville actually made me a DC fan. This is pre-apocalypse. What's the apocalypse? Today, since 2016, when these extremists have destroyed entertainment. This was something pure, amazing, and fun. I will be talking about these podcasts from week to week, and I'm thinking of doing my own Smallville reviews. I'm thinking about watching each episode week from week, just doing one episode a week and talking about it. Now, if you don't want me to do every single episode, get in the comments and tell me your favourite Smallville episodes. But I'm very, very excited for the return and the hype of Smallville, beginning with these Smallville podcasts, and who knows what else. Very exciting times if you're a Smallville fan. Black Adam prequel introduces a new villain to DCEU continuity. A tie-in comic starring Hawkman ahead of Black Adam's release reveals a surprising classic villain has joined the DCEU canon by Liam McGuire of Screen Rant. A surprise classic DC Comics villain just became DCEU canon in the latest Black Adam tie-in starring Hawkman in Black Adam. The Justice Society Secret Files Hawkman 1. Hawkman's adventures lead him into a tragic conflict with a man named James Craddock. While the name might not sound familiar to some, the character is original identity of the classic supervillain Gentleman Ghost. Now, the reason I've heard of Gentleman Ghost is because of the Batman animated series, Batman the Brave and the Bold, and I think they did a really good job with that character, who makes his DCEU debut in the story. Dwayne Johnson will play Black Adam in his upcoming self-titled DCEU film as the anti-hero, and the Justice Society of America is set to fight against the half-demon Sabbac. In promotion of the film, DC Comics is releasing 4 one-shot tie-ins, which will serve as introductions to different members of the JSA, including Hawkman, Dr. Fate, Cyclone, and Atom Smasher, as well as the character Adriana Tomaz. In addition, the canon comics will introduce several new faces to the DCEU, including Gentleman Ghost, a classic supervillain who debuted more than 70 years ago and has repeatedly sparred with Carter Hall. Very interesting. In Black Adam, the Justice Society Secret Files, Hawkman 1 by Cavan Scott, Norm Rappad, Scott Eaton, Andrew Dalhouse, and Rob Lee from DC Comics. Carter Hall is at a museum during a robbery as a man named James Craddock unleashes a gas attack while stealing a 1,000-year-old relic made of Eternium, shaped like Shazam's logo. Interesting. However, after trying to escape and dying in a fiery explosion being chased by Hawkman, Craddock is resurrected by an entity looking to kill the hero. When he emerges, Craddock refers to himself as Gentleman Ghost. Interesting. Gentleman Ghost, who becomes DCEU and Black Adam canon due to the appearance, tries to take down Hawkman using his ghost powers to trap him inside an exhibit as he toys with reality. However, the hero finds Dr. Fate similarly trapped. After being told the past is gone and the future is lost by the magical hero, Carter Hall finds the strength to break free and stop Gentleman Ghost by stabbing him with the Eternium relic. The villain fades into the darkness, warning of a more significant threat soon arriving. In the end, the tie-in comic offers Hawkman a fun, dark adventure. The story also shows that JSA existed in the DCEU universe before reforming in the upcoming film, and aims to fill in gaps by explaining where they've been. Gentleman Ghost might have a storied history tied to Hawkman, but it's still surprising to see the villain become canon outside of the film itself. Regardless, it's great to see DC Comics and the DCEU working together to build a universe ahead of Black Adam. Black Adam, the Justice Society Secret Files, Hawkman 1 by DC Comics is in comic book stores now. Definitely worth a read. Because these tie-in comics to these movies are very exciting. The only thing we know right now that Black Adam is coming in October. That film's being released as far as we know. So I'd be very excited to read that comic and the Flash comic as well. Even though I've seen the Flash movie, I haven't read the actual comic, so that would be very, very exciting. But of course, it doesn't matter if you release these prequel comics if you don't release these movies. I do believe Black Adam is coming. It's had its trailer. You know, they're plugging the movie. I hope it's a great movie. I hope everyone, gets to enjoy this movie. Because if this movie does well, it does save the DCEU. They can make more Black Adam. We can get more of the Justice Society of America. It will be very, very exciting. Let's see what happens, because there's a lot of decisions to be made about the DCEU. This has been the DC Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss this beautiful perfection. And I'll see you again for Friday's edition of the all-new DC Daily. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.